My name is Russell D'Souza. I'm Vice President for Global Transaction Services at Hanesbrands Incorporated. Among my responsibilities, they include Head of Global Shared Services for F&A, which is also Finance and Accounting, for Hanesbrands worldwide. Some of the functions under my responsibility include Global Receivables, Global Payables, Global Payroll, Global Indirect Tax, Global Fixed Asset Management, and Global Corporate Card Services. So the process of transformation of the order-to-cash function and its implications for working capital management was really a journey. And the journey began with something that's pretty commonplace with order-to-cash, and that is literally using the order-to-cash functions of risk management, collections, deductions, or what's called vendor compliance, and cash application. These are the more rudimentary applications of order-to-cash to working capital. But in 2008 and 2009, Hanesbrands went through what many other companies went through during that difficult time period, causing us to have to look a little bit more closely as to how we managed our working capital using order-to-cash when I was global head of order-to-cash at the time. So what we did was we decided to augment the order-to-cash function in addition to using other areas of corporate finance, including the treasury function, the corporate tax function, along with indirect tax, to have a more holistic approach to working capital. What made this necessary and urgent was the fact that we were a highly leveraged company after our spin-off from our former parent company, who had left us with a couple of $1 billion and more in debt. And so it was very important for us to be able to manage that debt, and working capital became the solution to being able to manage that highly leveraged state that we were in 2009. So the challenges were many, but I think the most salient challenge was the fact that we had a high amount of debt. And in a situation when the economy is having a tough time and sales are impacted, which obviously impacts net income, which is one of the key aspects of working capital, which is how one uses those funds to pay down debt, it became critical for us to closely monitor and manage our working capital. And order-to-cash, being the primary recipient of cash funds into the company, became one of the primary vehicles for liquidating cash quickly to be able to pay down debt faster. Actually, the process of finance transformation was actually part of this initiative for working capital. I was also the head of global finance transformation and global order-to-cash. And so one of the things we said that was imperative was to move the order-to-cash function from being a standalone way in which to generate cash to one where the process was much more integrative in nature. So essentially we started with order-to-cash being the primary focus of this initiative. It then evolved into what we call the Working Capital Council, which I alluded to earlier, which specifically included other aspects of the finance and accounting realm, such as the treasury team, the corporate tax team, the corporate finance team, being partners in this journey. Then we realized ultimately, once we saw the benefits of a cohort of people working towards a common purpose and goal, that if we could bring additional participants who were instrumental and could be instrumental to this journey, we found that it was a tremendous asset to the organization, and we titled that initiative our CFO project, or what we've called the Cash Flow Optimization Project. Elemental to that cash flow optimization project is an involvement of the holistic groups of people from procurement, materials planning, purchasing, supply chain finance, and a host of other groups in addition to the traditional people who played in this space, which were the traditional finance and accounting space. And what we found is by approaching our working capital initiative through this holistic approach, we actually garnered, one, much more involvement by a broader segment of the company, and two, much better results than we had originally anticipated.